myself Sridhar. Today we are going to start a new Java series. Previously I completed Python basics. Before I go into Python advanced, I thought of starting a new series with Java. So this is targeted for freshers who want to start learning Java. Before I go into the video, I would request you to subscribe to my channel. If you have not done it, please also like my videos. Don't forget to click on the bell notification to get instant updates. Okay, let's understand the architecture. Architecture of Java has two core processes. One is the compilation, another is the interpretation. Java is supported Java virtual machine. It provides the basic environment for Java code to be executed, and also JVM interprets the bytecode and converts that into the machine code, native machine code. So what is a bytecode? Bytecode is that once it is compiled, it is converted into bytecode, and it is interpreted and submitted to the Java virtual machine to get it executed. So it just loads what it is required. So bytecode is a small capsule. It doesn't load the entire thing. It just converts everything to bytecode. Whatever at that time the execution calls, only that particular capsule is presented and executed. So that is the importance of bytecode. So also the Java virtual machine is supported by Java runtime environment, which is it comprises of all the related Java related softwares and bundles and libraries that supports the development in line with input, process, output, storage, memory handling, and the communication. Okay, all the libraries are tightly bound with these 6 core principles. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Okay, let's understand the chart, how the subsystem works, JVM works. So JVM has these 5 important components. That is a class loader subsystem, which basically loads all the related classes. That is called, after all those classes are loaded memory, and it is linked and the variables and any static variables or information that is initialized the runtime, and it goes into the runtime data area. What is the runtime data area? Any class that references objects or information related to the memory, storage of variables, all those information are stored in the runtime data area. What is those? Comprises of all the methods, that is the functions used. So in Java terminology they call it methods. In C we call it function, right? So all that particular method is stored, the references to the method, the variable references, all the information will be stored in the heap area, and the stack area will contain the reference of that particular area. So let's understand each and every component in detail. So this is the core diagram in which you have to understand. You have to store that in your brain, so that every time when you execute a Java program, you should visualize this particular chart, so that you will understand how the Java subsystem works, JVM works. Okay, so let's see what is a class loader. So class loader is basically a subsystem to Java virtual machine, which loads all the related class files. So it is basically entry point of Java. So whenever you want to execute any Java application, this is the entry point. So it loads the related program. So it also loads the relative class files into the memory. Let's analyze the other 3 subsections of class loader system. So loading is the first step. It loads the class into the JVM. So this is the first step. So all the system defined classes are loaded. Next is linking. Linking means it has to verify if the compiled code and its bytecode is proper or not. So if the bytecode is not proper, it will definitely throw a error into the output device. So bytecode is the fundamental thing which is required to run a Java program. If the bytecode is not proper, then the Java program doesn't run well. So you will get all this reference error, all those things. So initialization. So initialization, what it does, the system assigns all the variables that is static in nature are assigned and to the original values and execute the static block. So it has to load into the memory through initialization process and use all the static information that is stored at the time of loading the class, and this is the most important functional area of this part, class loader subsystem part. So loading, linking and initialization, these are the three sequential process that helps the class loader subsystem to execute any Java class file. Hope you understood this. Okay, let us go to the next part, which is a runtime area. See what we discussed, the pre-runtime area, that is before loading, linking, initializing, putting all the code into the memory, first part. Now after storing in the memory, what it does? So you have to understand into two parts, loading and then after loading, pre-loading, post-loading. So let's analyze the post-loading components. Okay, so here the core area is any class is driven by the methods. So you have to understand class is nothing but it's a blueprint of your implementation for you to create an object. Okay, so you need to define all the behavioral aspect. What is the behavior? For example, you want to define a process called calculator. So what is the essence of calculator? You have to add, multiply, subtract and divide. So when you have to execute these four behaviors, you have to implement that inside the class. You need a data. So data has to be initialized into the class. The value should be passed on to the class and you have to call the respective method to execute it. So that is a bundle. So with the calculator, I can create an object out of it, and the object will contain the implementation of these four behaviors. So all the methods which I have defined, called add numbers, divide numbers, multiply numbers, subtract numbers, are called methods. So the method here stores all the class level data. So every class has data and methods that is supporting the class. Okay, let's go to the PC registers. So every thread of execution has a relative PC registers. It is nothing but it is a place where it holds all the addresses, memory address, reference addresses of the running instructions. See, a capsule of code has some instructions to be executed in the machine language. That will hold the reference point which is stored in the memory. So you would have studied in your curriculum in your college, like principles of all these hardware processing, central processing, ALU, logical unit. So you have to remember all those things in order to understand this. So this reference point will be used, PC register is used to refer all those information to execute the instructions. Heap area, heap and stack are two different parts. I give you a very simple way. Heap stores all the physical information of the variables or objects. It's stored in a cluster or in the heap. What is a stack? It tells the machine that I have stored this particular information of which is stored in this heap area. So it stores the reference point of the heap in the stack area. So when you store a variable, it has two components, one is heap and one is stack. So the reference point, all the variables will be referred in the stack, all the physical data that is stored in the heap. Okay, let's understand what is a native method stacks. Actually this section holds all the related native methods. Or if I define 15 methods, all the 15 methods will have unique reference. It contains all the references of the method. You understand a simple way. It refers all the methods defined that is used to drive the application. Simple terms. What does the heap do? Heap stores all the physical information of the variables or objects. What is a stack? It stores the reference of the physical information that is stored in the heap. So reference of the heap area. Okay. Now we understand these four important concepts. Okay, let's move on. Let's go into execution engine. What does it do? So what is an executing engine? Is nothing but an area where it executes the bytecode. So execution engine, what it does is reads the bytecode, which is a small chunk of code which is presented at runtime, and it doesn't execute the entire code like what it does in C. C, what it does is a static it loads all at once into the memory. It clogs the memory, but Java doesn't clog a memory. What it does, it stores only the related information into the memory. That is called bytecode. So what is required for executing that only is loaded in the memory for it to execute. So this is what that execution engine does. So reads and executes the bytecode that is required to execute that specific instructions which is loaded into the memory. Execution engine has multiple components. First is the interpreter. Interpreter is the slowest. It just interprets repeated code. It again refers and interprets the code and presents it, which takes extra seconds to process. Whereas just-in compiler is something very effective. So it's not like interpreter. It handles the repeated code effectively, not like interpreter. It converts the bytecode into native machine understood code after it compiles the Java program. So garbage collector is the most important function, important component of execution engine, where it cleans up the memory continuously by itself. You don't need to call. It does it in a first in first out method. So it goes through a cycle. It checks each and every object in the memory. If it is not referenced to a specific time, it removes from the memory and throws out of the memory. So there is two types of garbage. One is explicit and another implicit. Implicit is handling through code. Explicit is you let the system to do its job on its own. OOPS. What is a OOPS? Object Oriented Programming. So OOPS is nothing but it comprises of many concepts where it gives scope for reusability. That is the core principle of OOPS, Object Oriented Programming. Any implementation is blueprinted to a specific template from which where you can create objects. That is, that specific template is called a class. The behavior and data is defined to be used for future where it can run many times and it can replicate into many objects in single form. It is single form, but it is like write once, run many times. Worm, we call it a worm. So write once, run many times. That is the concept of object orientation techniques. So other concepts like inheritance, abstraction, interface, you have reflection. These are all the object oriented concepts which will be handling in future sessions. So this is purely basic in nature, it's more theoretical in nature. So in the next episode we'll be doing the first program, Java program. So before I go into the next slide, let me tell you what is the difference between a class and object. Class is a blueprint of an implementation where it helps you to create an object where it is defined once for you to help to create many instances in future. Whereas an object is is an extension from the class where you derive from the, where you instantiate from the class by using a keyword new. So I define a class at the later point in time. Out of the class I define multiple objects and execute whatever the methods that is defined in the class and pass the data or get the data from the class. So now you understand what is the need for a class and what is an object, what is the need for an object. Now you know for yourself what is the difference between a class and an object. Okay, so please take down some interview questions. These are the interview questions they will ask you if you apply for a Java job. What is a bytecode? What is just-in-time compiler? What does it do? What is a class? What is the difference between class and object? And also you can take down few other questions. What is the architecture of Java? And they'll ask you what is the difference between interpreter and JIT, just-in-time condition. And you have to distinguish all these difference. You please refer the previous slides. That answer I have given that, so you can refer this and hope. And also, before we go into the next session, let me explain the need for IDE. What is an IDE? IDE is nothing but it's an integrated development environment where it is a tool for you to write Java application software. Without this, it's not easy for you to develop. You can use a notepad, but notepad you have to write lot of code, but certain environment setup is done by default by Eclipse. This Java IDE helps you to do the code faster. Okay, majority of the software developers use only Eclipse. They also use NetBeans, but that is very rare. So I use only Eclipse. So it has got the debugging tools, all the necessary tools, compiler. You can use libraries, add libraries, remove libraries, and you can set path. You can do lot of stuff using the IDE. It saves time for you. Okay, so in the next episode we'll be doing the first program, and also we'll be learning about the object oriented principles like class, inheritance. These are the things we are going to see in the next video. So I should thank you for watching this video and hope this basic architecture is understandable to you. Please post your comments if you have any questions or doubts, where I am happy to explain you in detail in my next video. I will be answering all the questions. I will be replying back to your comments. The best comments will be addressed in my next video. Till then, until next time, it's goodbye from Sridhar. Thank you.